Hi my dear readers, this is Simona Rich. Please ignore the background. This is the wall that I was removing the old paint from, and I'm going to paint it later. In this video I'm going to share with you the second part of the book that helped many people, which is about the cause of the human life problems and illnesses, and it's written by Jonas Markunas. So let's see what I marked next, and I'm going to again try to translate it from Lithuanian into English as best as I can. Here it says that if you don't destroy your spiritual structure, you will be whole, and this will make you very attractive to all people, and you don't destroy such a structure by leading a moral life and not transgressing. It's very important to keep good relationships with everyone around you, especially your family and your relatives, everyone connected with you by blood. So even if you don't like those people, try to maintain peaceful relationships so that they don't in their minds curse you, because this may affect you if they have bad opinion about you. So try to really maintain as good relationship as possible with people that are related to you by blood. He also says that if a child at first is not welcome to the family, for example, if a woman gets scared when she finds out that she's pregnant, then it may result in a child who doesn't love himself or herself, and of course that makes life very difficult for that child. He says if a child doesn't love himself, he is not going to also love people close to them. It's very important to maintain good relationships with your loved ones, because love can be destroyed through even small arguments because they accumulate. So it's very important, when you know what makes your other half angry, not to do that, so that love is maintained. Because he says that if love is not tried to be consciously maintained, it will disappear with time. And one of the biggest reasons that love disappears is through those arguments, even if they are small but happening every day or very often. They eventually end up destroying love. And this I found in my own case, what he's telling now, that real love is the one that is growing from romantic and sensual love into the one that leads to respect. And I find it to be true. That is the real love. It becomes very strong, and two people start respecting one another. They stay long enough for this to happen, and this is real love. Love is very important because it makes us spiritually grow. Even loving anyone, not even a human being, if you love animals or anything that is alive, if you focus on that love, it will help you to spiritually grow. And if you love God, your family, your work, this will give you much creative power. You will really learn how to live if you avoid giving pain to others and your own self. If with love we will do all that is good, we will also receive blessings and benefits from other people as well as God. It's very important to understand what is real love and what is just fascination, or you finding someone sexually attractive, because that will not last. It's important to tell love apart from your idealism, dreams, and also calculations about people, because many people are blinded by these things, and this cannot result in real love. A real life partner can only be a person whose personal traits give causes to mutual love growth And it also, those traits give hope that family life is going to be happy. So if that person has traits that destroy these things, then it's not going to be a happy union. Those who don't like work, those who are not moral, those who have psychological problems, addictions, and who don't view life in a serious way, who doesn't feel responsibility towards himself or other people, it's very likely that such a partner is not going to give you much happiness or happiness at all. Faithfulness is the heart of marriage. The idea of marriage should be really well thought out, but the idea of divorce should be thought out 100 times more. It's very important to understand that divorce starts even from the first argument, the first faithlessness or cheating, even in your mind, the first disappointment about how many responsibilities you have in the family, and the first welcoming of someone else into your relationship that's wishing you bad. So nobody's business, your relationship is nobody's business, and you should not just invite the third person into your union. People who are involved in gratifying their sensual pleasures will never be happy. The real happiness is not hidden in another man or woman, but in your soul structure, your soul and mind structure. The strengthening of them should be the topmost priority. You should try never to allow yourself to be conquered by anger, hatred, jealousy, disappointments, unfaithfulness towards your partner, and other negative behaviors and emotions. You living together, you must put all your effort into maintaining harmonious relationships. And here he also says that the best way, if you already are into arguments, the best way to resolve them is to start writing each other letters, because then you will take time to think over things that you're writing because if you're telling them, you may actually regret, because you may tell something hurtful. But when you're writing, you have more time to reflect on what you write, and you can express yourself much more clearly, and then you may end up, both of you may end up understanding each other better. The dark world, the dark side, always thinks of ways to take the person to their side. The person who is already mentally enlightened understands that and avoids the traps. But those who are already darkened by alcohol, drugs, sensual feelings, they easily get into the trap of the dark side. For example, having sexual relationships with someone you found attractive whilst you're in a relationship. Some people who have these problems, who have alcohol problems or other problems, they easily commit such acts without thinking of the consequences. And once the faithfulness is broken, it's like a crystal vase. You can try to fix it, but it will never look the same. Oh, here he also comes back to the idea of writing letters to each other, because when you're writing them, you have the opportunity to see yourself from the perspective of another, because you're seeing your words on the letter, and this can allow you to understand whether actually you're wrong or not. Because when we are saying, we don't reflect much, but when we write, we can reflect that maybe actually it's our fault what we disagree about. Here he also mentions how to know if your children start turning to the dark side. So you have to pay attention to these signs. The thinking level, the intelligence level decreases. They start failing to understand basic life truths, or they start understanding them the opposite way. They start being very difficult to talk to, nervous and closed. Bad marks at school start. The parents start feeling aggressiveness towards them from their children, and also the same is felt by teachers and other people who try to teach them the right way to live. This is a big sign. These are big signs that there are some really bad changes in a child's soul and mind structures. And to restore this, he says, the parents need to understand the truths of this book and apply them in their children's lives. And if you want to force a child to change, this is not going to result in anything long-term beneficial. It's very likely that then a child will close himself or herself more, or they may start to lie to you, being one way towards you, but they are actually not like that. A very big importance is how you personally act. If you say something should not be done, but you do it yourself, well, that's not going to have a big impact. But if you teach with your own behavior, this can make a big impact. It's very important also to explain the consequences of certain mistakes to children. So don't be afraid to share your own mistakes, or even, I guess, you can share, if you didn't make those mistakes, the mistakes of the people that you know, because if you're teaching the consequences of those mistakes, some children will listen and avoid making the same mistakes. He says the most useful example is a personal example. It's very important not to argue in front of children, because children are sensitive, and when they listen to arguments, they start judging parents, which is bad for the entire family, and it also destroys the family foundation and their destiny, and the foundation of their destiny. That's what he says. It very often happens that when family responsibilities start, people focus on that and they forget their tender feelings towards one another. And sometimes then both people start remembering their carefree past love relations, and they start thinking about those people, and this already causes to start the foundation of their marriage to deteriorate. If only one person in marriage or relationship tries to adjust to one another and tries not to make another person angry, this is not going to work, because both have to work towards mutual peace. He says that the reason it's not advised to marry someone that is in any way related to you blood-wise, because the weak soul structures of those people are similar. So because of this, children are going to inherit even strengthened weakness, like that weakness multiplies in children, and because of this they may be born with the birth defects. Here he says that it is noticed that when people from totally different cultures get married, children are often very intelligent, and more able to do all sorts of things than those who are of the same nation, because there is some kind of blood mixing taking place within the nation still. It's very important to get the blessings of your parents when you marry. This is going to help you in life, in the life that you have together with your partner. Some people have very strong guardian angels, and if you are pure, if you lead a moral life, you will feel that guidance of the guardian angel. And for example, maybe there is danger for you waiting on the road that you usually take. Therefore, you for some reason decide to take another road. This is your guardian angel protecting you from the danger that he sees ahead. But obviously you just think it's just a change of mind. He says that it was found that during abortion they were able in the US check what's happening to the fetus when it's attempted to be killed, and that actually that fetus tries to avoid the tool of the doctor that's trying to get rid of it. Says that this scientist, when he understood this, tried to make people aware of that. However, very few people wanted to support this action of his. He says good sexual health is very important to people, and when it weakens, people are likely to get sick. So abortions and also birth control methods really weaken the sexual system of people. A woman who killed her own child will never be able to delete that from her consciousness. A woman who destroys her own child destroys her motherhood instinct, and it will be more difficult for her to give birth to healthy children in the future. He says that if you destroyed your child or you participated in the destruction of a child, you have some kind of like a destruction program in your soul structure, and people who have this kind of destruction program, they will take totally different decisions than those who don't have that program. And therefore, if such people get into important positions, world is not going to be a happy place. Here, very interesting. He says that it's how to say, like artificial insemination, artificial fertilization, something like this is okay as long as it's not done outside of the female uterus, because if it's done in a lab, the child is very likely to be born sterile, and they may also have lower intelligence, they may be developing slower than usual, but the most important thing to understand that they are very likely to be born sterile. He says do not seek for artificial fertilization, but make sure your soul structures are sound and your mind, like the brain structures, are sound, as well as physical structures. You should, through prayer, remove the negative consequences of abortions, and also through prayer ask for forgiveness of dating various people, because this also will have negative consequences for future children. And if you do these things, if you lead a pure life, then naturally you will give birth to healthy children who will have a very happy life. Here he says that another reason why some women cannot get pregnant is because they are much more stronger, in their energy field is much more stronger to the energy field of their husbands, and because of this the husband's seed is destroyed, seen as something that is foreign. And this is done to protect a woman from giving birth to weak children. The nature in this way protects a healthy woman from unhealthy children. In nature, there happens fights between animals, and only the strongest ones have the right to have children. So nature tries to protect humanity from birth defects, and because of this some women cannot have children, but humans always try to find their own ways around it. However, this only results in unhappiness, like unhealthy children with birth defects, or children who have very bad life because their destiny is not good. He says, I think that if the soul structures of parents and their mental structures do not allow them to give birth to healthy babies, then it's best not to attempt to do this. Nature itself regulates all the processes, and it does everything so that offspring with birth defects would not see this world. Therefore, I advise to firstly heal the structures that I've mentioned, and then after some time also the physical structure of your body will positively respond, and then maybe there will happen an opportunity to actually have healthy offspring. It's important to understand that when a child is born, you should never separate that child from a mother, for example by taking the baby to another room, because then their connection is broken. However, fertilization of an egg taking place outside of the uterus is much more harmful, because child's formation codes are disconnected, which are residing in the body of a mother and can only act through it. Such fertilization, once it's successful and the embryo is implanted in a woman's uterus, these programs and codes can never be reconnected. Now he's talking about taking children from orphanages. Children's upbringing is not the only thing that's important. In the same family, one can become a holy person and another can become a murderer. Those children who are left abandoned in hospitals usually are given birth by lonely and single women. They were growing in her uterus without any love. They went through all the physical and emotional stresses that the mother went through. The same happens when children are taken from antisocial families. They may even turn out worse, because they already saw quite a few violence manifestations and maybe even rape. So we shouldn't be surprised that children who grow up in orphanages, they have some inherited and lived through negative soul structures and physical structures and serious problems. And another bad thing is that because all of these children with such negative structures are together, they actually enhance each other's negative proclivities. And he says another bad thing is that those children are still connected to those parents. So even if they are taken by other parents, that connection still remains. And if parents are alive, if they are in trouble, children will be also affected by that. Here he talks about the negative influence of news and other media channels, that bad people are made into heroes, and the young generation follows that, thinking that violence can be good. He says here that the only people who don't feel conscience, who don't feel like they are sinning against their own conscience, is when their soul and body structures are so changed that they themselves cannot even understand that they have become the tools of the dark side. It's difficult for families to get helped by the light side if there are continuous arguments in the family, because this prevents the light world from helping them when they're in trouble. And especially the way that children are treated by their parents affect them a lot. So if parents don't like their children or don't like something about them, this really damages the child, because parents as though feed the child energetically. So it's very important for the child to receive only positivity. He says that certain religions which encourage for people to 100 times repeat words that they themselves don't understand, they get into such a state where they willingly give their life energy to the dark world. And because of this, they, after such a prayer, they remain in a kind of suspension mode. And with time, their intelligence starts getting worse, and they no longer want to learn and to improve themselves. God created a human being not so that a human would praise God in a fanatical way, but so that with intelligence he would help to make the world more beautiful and more perfect, and so that he would spread warmth and light to humanity. But because of the involvement with certain sects, a human being loses a part of his soul structures, and this makes him ineffective in carrying out the mission of the light.